Woohoo! Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome to Play It Painted Live. We are setting up for our live show tonight. This is going to be the actual live show, not to be confused with the Game of Thrones ranting that took place last night. So, just waiting for the live feed on that side to show up, which it looks like it's just about to. And I'm going to turn the comments on. And we're going to get to the painting, okay? So we are in the middle of the May Painting Challenge. That is what's going on. That's one of the main things I'll be working on. And last night, just to let you know, here's what we worked on last night. Here is Fillet. And you can see I still need to paint another layer of red there on her base. But for the most part, she's done. I don't know. I think I may need to do a wash on her skin. Skin's looking a little too pale at the moment. So I don't know. I may do a wash on her. I may just leave her. I don't know. She looks okay. That's the thing. She looks okay, but I don't know. But she's not the focus tonight. Tonight's focus is going to be Hammer. Okay, so here's Hammer from the other night. So we're going to get this guy started. And he's, I don't know, I think we'll be able to actually finish him. But what I need to do is I need to do the fine detail work right now. So that's the plan. We're not doing any airbrushing tonight. We're just going to work on Hammer, get the fine detail stuff done. And then I'm going to get Callan on, and we're going to talk about Kingdom Come. So it should be a good show tonight. We're going to talk a lot about Guild Ball, obviously, because that's what we've been doing so much on this channel, is talking Guild Ball. And so for right now, though, I've got to get this. I've got to get the eyes painted, and then I'm going to do a little bit of a like an ink glaze wash, which is something I do. And I'll show you what that's all about, just to get some of the detail in the armor that we started last night. Okay, so first up, I'm going to do the eyes, because the eyes I usually start there, because if I have to, when I'm working on eyes, I usually have to pull them in super close and out of frame. And you guys aren't going to have anything to look at for a little bit, so we might as well just start there. All right, so if you're just joining us, welcome to Play It Painted Live. Let us know what you're painting or what you should be painting. Tonight we are working on Hammer, Season 2 captain for the Masons Guild in Guild Ball. Okay, so a little bit of just going to paint in my socket right there. And paint that in right there. Okay. Hammer's really cool looking. Been waiting for this miniature for a while. So the other sad, unfortunate news is I sort of boo-boo, or something happened during my salute order. Here's the thing. I was supposed to order the other two members of the Hunters Guild, Cena, and I forget the name of the other character. And during salute, when the locker was open, for whatever reason, that did not happen. And most importantly, I didn't get to order Edition Flint, which is the model I really wanted, that I was going to add to my Season 2 Masons Guild. But I didn't get him. Thankfully, our friend David Blood ordered a few of them, so he got extras. So I'm going to buy one of them off of him. But the unfortunate side effect of that is that no, I do not have the full Hunters Guild like I thought I might have. Okay. So anyway. That's going to make it very hard for me to sell the Hunters Guild. So I actually, to truth be told, I may end up selling my Butcher's Guild. I don't know. We'll see. Right now, though, let's paint up some hammer. Okay. This is a really, and I mean really cool model. But painting, trying to keep the concentration of paint eyes streaming. It's not one of my stronger suits. Eyes in general are challenging. And I try to do my best with the eyes. It's just the angles, especially when you have models like this that they have a hand in front of their face. So it's hard to get that level of detail on the model. It looks like, in fact, it's like I don't have the eyes quite parallel to one another. So I need to bring up, I just need to fill in a little more white here. There we go. There we go. It's looking, that looks better. All right. Okay, and try to get that to dry a little bit. Now we're gonna dot the eyes. And then once we're done with the eyes, we can move on to the other parts of this mini. I do quite like this miniature. But, woo, trying to work an angle here for this other eye is going to be tricky. Man, I don't know how I'm going to get that. I'm going to have to come up from below. Which is okay. I think head on, though, he looks a little cross-eyed. That's what I was worried about. But I should be able to correct it. There we go. There we go. So let me show you. Let me show you the eyes. You can see that obviously when I painted the black in, well, you can't even see it on camera. That one just looks totally blacked out. All right. So so there's the eyes. But now you see what I'm going to work on right now is if you see, if you look at the armor has this really fine patterning in it. See if it will actually focus. It's really fine patterning in it. And I need it to be white, but blue inside that patterning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make myself a little ink glaze, okay? So I'm going to take some blue ink like this and some flow improver. Actually, I need, I should use this thinning agent. And I should use some thinner medium just to keep the surface tension down. Whoa, that's a lot of blue ink. I accidentally had 3 drops. I really only wanted 1 drop. We're going to do a little bit of glaze medium. Okay, so a few drops of glaze medium. Only need 1 drop of thinner medium. Wow. It's been a while since I cracked this thing open. That's not good. Let me clean up the, sometimes you gotta clean up the nozzles on these. There we go. Because the idea is I need the intensity of the ink, but I need to be able to, it needs to be able to just flow right where I want it. Whoa, that not too many of the thinner medium. A couple drops of water. Okay. I'm going to mix this up. I'm actually going to run a little bit more ink into my mix, so I have some intensity. So here's what I'm working with right now. You can see it's a really pretty sharp blue there. And that's kind of how I've been doing my Masons. I want to do a different color scheme on them at some point, but so here's what we do. So now we take this super thin, and if you just touch certain parts of the model, it's actually going to fill in a lot of this fine detail of the armor. Okay, because there's a lot of like little cool little swirly parts, and if you're careful enough, you'll get, you can hit the swirly parts like that. Let me just do one, and I'll show you what we're looking at at the end of this. So this is like the fine detail stuff. I don't know. It's just kind of a weird. The way I do this is a little weird, but I actually learned this playing painting retribution models. But this is a way to get into that really fine, super sharp detail. You just use a different color ink for theirs. But like this already has like good intensity. So what's going to happen is when I highlight this with white, it should look quite cool. Now you don't have to be 100% exact. All you're really trying to do is get that color down into the groove there, so that when you start doing your highlights, you have that part kind of covered. Okay. That's just how the armor goes on the Masons. Okay. Tops of the boots, and kind of like the thigh pad here. It's a weird place to have a armor plate, but okay. This guy's outfit's a little weird. He has like, essentially he's wearing like an armored tube top. That's pretty funny. Callan looks like he's ready to go. I'm just this underway so that I can paint with little to no interruptions once we start. Okay, so this is all the fine detail stuff. Right. Let me get the base coat on the skin, and then we'll bring Callan on, okay? So we're going to go skin, we're going to go from dark to light. So actually, I need to start a little bit lighter than that. So I'm going to start here with this heavy sienna and then work my way towards the deep skin tone, okay? And then we'll wash the whole thing. We'll make sure it all blends. All right, so what's this? Let's mix that up. Here's the thing about Hammer too, is yeah, he's a black man in the art, but like if you had just like a Mr. Clean bald guy, like a white dude, I would still probably paint him. Probably still paint him as a black guy because it just looks correct. It just looks correct, and his name is Hammer, for crying out loud. So you know who that reminds me of. Well, that's pretty dark. That's pretty dark, but we'll make it work. And the good news is once this is down, this little undercoat, I'm not going to have to go back to this microscopic little brush. Right? Okay. Nobody in the chat, so I'm just going to keep painting. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and shoot the link over to Callan. All right. Okay. Let's do that. Okay. So there we go. That is now up, and we're off and running. Should be hopping on here shortly. Okay. So here's Hammer so far. Still need to do a little bit, get the details right on the face. But so far, so good. Looking pretty good. Kind of hard to tell what else he has. What else is his exposed flesh? I believe it's his fists. So let's paint the fists in. And looks like under this plate here, his arm is, it's like this arm is exposed. All right. And hands. This is a super fun model. Okay. Whoa, I'm sorry it's so quiet. Waiting for Cal to hop on. But anyway, while I'm doing this, let's talk a little bit about Kingdom Con in general. Okay, so well, there's Cal.
Ew.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
It's a quiet evening here. I'm painting up Hammer.
Nice.
I just started on him. Are you painting right now?
No, I have a few models left. I also picked up the Corsair from the tournament, so I still have to put him together and get him all primed up.
Cool. Okay. So yeah, well tonight we're, other than the usual painting, we're going to talk a little bit about Kingdom Con and kind of give a recap of what happened this past weekend at Kingdom Con, which was awesome. Had a really good time, and we had a lot of good games, and in particular we had our Guild Ball, our first sanctioned tournament in SoCal, which we're dubbing the Kingdom Cup. So that happened, which was a lot of fun, and we'll just cover that. So if I'm mumbling or stammering right now, it's because I'm trying to stay in the lines a little bit here with Hammer, and we're just gonna work on his flesh a little bit. Okay. So anyways, so for those of you that don't know what Kingdom Con is, let's go over that real quick. So Kingdom Con is a San Diego gaming convention. It's been around since 2011. Thrown by a guy named Ross Thompson, who is, kind of a little bit of celebrity in the tabletop gaming world, and has now has a little bit of a foothold on the video game side as well. And this started off as just kind of a local San Diego con, which it still really is, but it's grown a little bit, and it feels more like a party atmosphere. So this con has, it features tabletop gaming fairly heavily. There are large events for War Machine, Warhammer 40K, and then one of the biggest draws to the con is a game called Drunk Quest, which actually has most of its roots at Kingdom Con, because Kingdom Con is kind of like the garage party con is what it's called, or the house party con as they know it as. And I started going to Kingdom Con, I believe, the first year, like back in 2011. At least that's what my t-shirts say. And have been going every year since, and have always been volunteering and hosting miniature games there at the con, and so this year was no exception. So this year, though, we wanted to play Guild Ball. Phil and I. This is kind of the whole story of how we really got into Guild Ball, how we got this far deep into Guild Ball, I should say. So Guild Ball was something that started playing really early on in the year, and it was right around the same time where Ross said, "Hey, Octave, are you going to do Kingdom Con again?" And I said, "Of course I'm gonna." And at the time, I was still brand new at Guild Ball. So it was like, well, we'll run some games that we know. Like we'll run Ninja All-Stars, we'll run Relic Knights and that kind of stuff. But I told Ross back then, I said, "Hey, we want to be able to play Guild Ball at Kingdom Con." He said, okay. You know what? I've got a guy. We're gonna set up some events, and you guys are gonna be able to play Guild Ball. I said, okay, cool. But if for whatever reason, something falls through, or you're having any issues or anything like that, let me know, because we could always just step in and throw together something real quick, just so that we get the opportunity to play Guild Ball at Kingdom Con. So that was basically the original thing, and so Ross was kind of working behind the scenes there to get some Guild Ball events. And the Guild Ball events, the people that I think he was working with to make it happen didn't look like they were going to be able to make the con, or they weren't going to be able to run anything there, right? So me and Phil were plan B, essentially. And Ross, he got a hold of me and said, "Hey, dude, it doesn't look like my original plans for Guild Ball are going to work out. Can we throw together a little tournament for Guild Ball?" I said, "Sure, yeah. That's no problem. We'll we'll do a little." I said, "We'll do a little 12-man tournament, like max 12, because I don't think there's going to be that many people playing Guild Ball, right?" And once again, this was like maybe a couple of weeks after I learned the game. So anyway, what happens between then and now is the Guild Ball scene started to grow a little bit, and they put me in touch with Jamie Perkins, who we talked about Kingdom Con, and he expressed that there was a significant interest in Kingdom Con and the idea of bringing a national championship to Kingdom Con. So we get to talking, and he said, "Hey, it would probably be great if you guys did a sanctioned event at Kingdom Con." So this is where now I'm starting to go further and further down the rabbit hole, and starting to learn, okay, what's a sanctioned event? What's a pundit going on with Guild Ball, essentially, right? And so we go through the motions of getting the event sanctioned. We set the player cap at 16. That thing fills up. That was like no problem too. That thing filled up no problem at the Kingdom Con site, which was really odd at the time, because it's like, well, who the hell knows this game down here? Nobody that we knew of was playing it. And so anyways, in between that, then we had that esports event, which, since I'm already talking to Jamie about Kingdom Con, I talked to him about that. Steamforge, they throw a lot of support our way. They're really interested in seeing this market, the West Coast market, grow for them. And before we know it, Dave is in on the pundit program, and and I wasn't sure if I was going to hop in. There was the whole thing of should I be volunteering for more gaming again, and then, but I still ended up volunteering, signing up for pundit, just mainly because nobody doing it in Orange County. and because I now have, 2 reasonable events going. So I was kind of already doing the job anyway, right? So that's kind of how we ended up at Kingdom Con was, and it's also how I ended up becoming a pundit was, we were the backup plan, but we really did want to play Guild Ball at Kingdom Con. That was a priority. And so this is kind of how it worked out. Now, we have the event scheduled at Kingdom Con. Dave and I have different events on Friday night, which were cool. Dave was running Lebowski Saves the World. It's kind of a homebrew mix of Pulp Alley with some cool with the Mars Attacks miniatures and some stuff from Impact. And I'm running Ninja All Stars because Ninja Division is the other thing that I volunteer for. So we had those going in, and then in the meantime, the SoCal Guild Ball scene is really starting to pick up, right? So that's kind of how we got to Kingdom Con, and we'll get into the weekend's events, but suffice it to say, Dave had a really fun casual demo night. But even when I got there on Thursday, immediately when I got there, people were playing Guild Ball. So I show up Thursday, and already people are playing the game. I get in some Thursday night games of Guild Ball, and then Friday, Dave's event isn't until 8, but we had, thankfully, kind of reserved the space for the whole day for open gaming and the Ninja event I was going to run later that night. So it turned out that we had Guild Ball games running literally the entire weekend, which was awesome. So that happened, and then Saturday we had the Kingdom Cup, and that's where we're gonna bring Callan in here. But here's a few. We got a couple of guys in the chat. Hello, boys. Hello. Just got home. How long you been going? I don't know, 20 minutes or so. And Armada Games, aka Michael, is on. What's up? Welcome to the show. So I guess what we're gonna do from here is I'm gonna first turn it over to you, Callan, and you can kind of recap the team that you brought, why you brought it, and then give us a recap of the games. And if you want to go round by round and all that, that would be fantastic too. That way we can kind of pick apart the games.
Yeah, sure. So like you said, Friday rolls around, and there's tons of people playing Guild Ball, which is awesome. And you were actually showing Relic Knights, and that's a game I haven't played before, so I was like, I'll play some Relic Knights. Most of the things that caught my eye though when I saw everybody playing was that it was overwhelmingly Brewers and Masons. I felt like half the field the next day was going to be Brewers and Masons, which actually left an impact on the team I took ultimately. So I played Morticians, and so rolling into Saturday, my team was Obulus Dirge. I didn't have enough games on Scalpel, and Obulus is just really good. So it's just all right, let's just stick with the captain I know. Silence and Gas, those are workhorses you can pretty much throw into any lineup. Mist Striker. Rage is actually a model, to be honest. I played in almost none of my casual games or teaching games, but I was kind of doing some research and just kind of thinking about because the reason you bring Cosset is because she's actually a female model most of the time, and she's quick, so she's good against fish and stuff like that. But Rage as an efficiency model, if you're able to get off a good play and able to bring him in and keep him active, even if he's not tooling up people but just himself is going, you can generate not only a ton of momentum but damage. He has Crucial Artery. He gets essentially 4 swings for 1 influence if you have it on him, which is pretty ridiculous. And he has momentous 1 damage, so he's pretty much always just generating momentum, and he's going to keep swinging unless you completely whiff an attack, which I actually did on 8 dice at one point, but we'll get into that. Graves actually was an interesting pick for me. He mainly came out into the last spot because against Masons, he's actually particularly good because he can Scything Blow very easily against them, and he causes a lot of bleed. He's also good against Fish because if anybody's hurt, he actually has tons of range. He has 2-inch reach. He has a tackle on 1. He can pass the ball, which Morticians like. There was quite a few times I was bonus timing passes because I couldn't afford to have them fail, essentially, in Morticians, because they have a lot of like 2 dice passes, which aren't like I don't want to bet on that landing and missing. So I'll bump it to 3 most of the time. And then the last one was Fangtooth, which I really like Fangtooth into Brewers specifically because then you have double unmasking threat. He has Gluttonous Mass. He has a lot of hit points. He slows down an already slow team in general. So I actually ended up with Graves and Fangtooth purely off the fact that there were so many Masons and Brewers. I was kind of playing the odds that, yeah, like I'm probably going to run into those 2 factions at some point during my games. The other factor, so the problem with the lineup is that I'm like, it's like pretty much like it's what I call like a dude fiesta. It's like all guy characters. So if I go against teams that have key models with like Charmed Male, I'm going to be just less efficient against them. So I don't really have an option to deal with that. The other part of it is, and like Dirge isn't going to go in there and do anything. There's good old the fact that I can't field a lineup that doesn't have either Scything Blow or Unmasking in it. So if I run into an Alchemist player, then I'm basically in a tough situation where I'm deciding which model do I want to field that's going to potentially give Midas like Unmasking or Scything Blow, which is not a great position to be in. You don't want him to ever get an offensive ability like that because he can just spam it on you, and they're always going to be momentous, and then he only needs a couple hits to get it. And I can't give him Scything Blow, so that's not going to happen. But anyways, that was kind of my team and my thought process when I built out my Tournament 8. And for anybody that doesn't know, your Tournament 8 is essentially your captain, your mascot, and then you have 6 models, and then you basically pick 4 of those for your team, and each round you kind of you pick them, and then you don't know what your opponent's picking. You know their roster, but then you reveal them at the same time, and those are your teams, and you go at it and you brawl. And so yeah, that was my thought process behind my my Tournament 8 that I took to there, and mainly a lot of it was influenced too by what the field was, which I think is in general a pretty good idea.
Just to give you, to kind of piggyback on what you're saying. So the tournament breakdown was we had 16 players. We did end up with 4 Mason players to start. So it was like 4 Masons. I believe we had 2 Brewers players. We had 2 Alchemist players, 2 Mortician players, and then like 1 of everything shy of Hunters. So we had full representation except for the brand new team. So that was a cool mix. But like you said, a fair share of Brewers and a fair share of Masons.
Yeah. I think the other thing that's important for tournaments is that you should generally have a strategy prepared, especially when you're playing on the clock. So that like at least like your turn 1, if you're kicking off or receiving, you have a general strategy that you can execute quickly so that you buy time for rounds like 2, 3, 4, 5, and heaven forbid you get to 6, because then at that point you're usually near clocking out by that time for sure, and things are getting really, really intense. So when I went in, the first thing I decided is like, how is my team going to win? So my team, more than likely, it can like the thing about Morticians is great is that you can, if you execute your control elements well, they can basically play scoring or killing. So I'm going to go for 2-2, which is I'm going to try to get 2 goals and 2 takeouts most of the time. With like miss scoring 1, obviously usually scoring 1, or miss going and tracking the ball and then going back to score. And then the rest of the killing can come from early plays or just the rest of my team because I have Rage, Ghast, Obelisk can do work very easily in a pinch, and I can take out players that way. So that's kind of like, I know it's like, hey, I'm not going to try to go for three goals. That's not what my team's going to do. I'm probably not going to try to go for 6 takeouts if I don't have to. I'll probably go for 1 goal and 4 takeouts if I'm playing someone like Fish, because I don't want to goal race them. If you're trying to go for 2 goals, chances are the goals they're running the field, and they're usually going to win that trade if you start trying to trade goals with them. So 2-2 is my goal against everybody but Fish, essentially. And that's kind of, so I know that like that's kind of my baseline for what my strategy is. The next part is like kickoff strat. So in general, a lot of people when I played them, they kick off to the center or they kick kind of easily. Personally, I think that I don't like that. I actually always pretty much want to onside kick. So my general goal is I would put Mist in the middle and have the ball. And then based on how they deploy, which I also noticed that a lot of players this tournament tended to have their units bunched towards the middle. I just run Mist out 6, kick it 8 towards a corner of the field as far as possible. And then it leaves them an interesting conundrum because either they have a model that can go reach it, and the best they can do is kick it back towards their team in space, but now they have a model hanging out there, or they leave the ball there and then Mist gets the ball. And the idea there is that I think the ball is one of the most important tools in the game. And so I want it, and I want to hold on to it for as long as possible until I decide that 4 victory points is more important. And so that's kind of like, so I know like, okay, if I'm kicking off, this is how I'm doing, this is how I'm setting up my guys, so on and so forth. Receiving strat. So if I'm receiving the ball, what I'm essentially doing is I'm putting Dirge and Mist on the corners so they can go and get the ball in case someone does that to me. Or if they kick it to the center, I'll jog up Silence to get the ball and pass it out and eventually get it to Mist. And Mist will have a bunch of influence to potentially go score turn 1 or do whatever the heck Mist wants to do to get in position for the next turn to potentially score. And then the rest of my team is kind of set up around Obulus, Ridge, and Gast. And then the idea there, what I'm actually looking for this tournament, my first turn strategy was to spend activations as long as possible until they invariably got either impatient or like didn't calculate, move someone out that was within jog range of the center line. And then I would send Obulus out to puppet master them to the center line or farther. Then Gast would charge and he'd try to knock down or get his momentous 2-inch push, which is on 2 hits. It's actually not momentous, but he has a momentous knockdown. He has a 2-inch push. But usually you can get pretty good hits with him on a charge, so I can pretty much do whatever I want. And then I would push them closer so that Rage could follow up, generate a billion momentum, and put them within an inch of their life. And then I would go into turn 2 with pretty much being able to execute a model and have a pile of momentum, so I know I'm going first. So all good things. So that's kind of like, in a nutshell, like before a game even starts, like that's kind of my baseline of what I want to do. And essentially that I think left me really prepared for a lot of these matches.
Oh, okay. Well, I know when I'm kicking, I usually like to do a shallow kick with my and I tend to use like one of my tankiest guys or the guy that I need to have furthest up the field early game. So like a lot of if I'm doing Masons, a lot of times I'll kick with Brick, and I'll kick shallow into their side, and try to keep it to where it's close enough to where if I needed to, I could actually activate the counter charge on the person that's trying to get the ball.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a little similar to your strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key, especially when kicking off, is selecting like what model you want to be further up and why you want them to be further up to do something. Typically for Morticians, it might be Silence a lot of time because he has like either embalming fluid to slow down the enemy team, or he has tucked and shutout and he can mess with your activations. Particularly with Masons, since they're easier to hit on one die and because you're not going to be able to generate momentum when you kick off. It's a good strategy to do that with him because he can like mess with their activations in case they want to do like a missile or something like that. You can kind of go just basically be annoying depending on how well they set up and whatnot. But yeah, so David, like
he's in the comments saying that that's basically you described what you did to him in killing Ox in the first time.
Yeah. And I think the thing is that that's important because if I had to come up with that on the fly or like I mean, you could also pick a strategy that's not very common, but I feel like it's like unless like people are really like know what I'm doing, which from now on they probably will know if I would try to execute that strategy again outside this tournament and they watch this, they'd be like, oh, I know what Callan could possibly do with this. If they know, then like, yeah, they'll stop it. But usually a lot of people, like, you're just kind of not aware of it. And if you think back to like impactful models like Gutter, and why Gutter was so disgusting with her when she had 6-inch range is like you really couldn't step anywhere off of your starting line and she would just come and grab you and start this thing. Well, Obelisk kind of like uses your jog against you to do a very similar thing. But if you get them to the center line, like where Gutter kind of like would try to do that, but most cases she'd kind of be on your side, you're in range of all these other guys that have enough speed, like gas, to start this chain of stuff. And the rage part of it is just like the meat grinder that starts going, and then it's like really hard to deal with. That's why I think it's really strong. But anyways, we can jump into games if you want.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so like I said, my team was bad against Alchemists in the first. So round 1 was Alchemists, which I was like, really? Like that's like, I knew there was 2 of them, but come on. So I ran into them. I ended up. I also pre-built lineups, too, for just so that that would be easy decision. But I mean. So like my comfort lineup was basically Obelisk, Dirge, Silence, Mist, Gas, Rage. That's like the bread and butter. Brewers, I would sub out Rage for Fangtooth, and then against Masons, I would sub out Rage, or I would sub out Rage for Graves, and that was essentially it. So against Alchemists, I didn't really have a lineup for that because I knew it was going to be bad. So I just went with the comfort lineup, thinking that if I really had to, I could make Gas step back so he's out of range of Midas. If Midas wanted to spend 6 influence to gain unmasking, that would be a significant like dump in the early stages. So there was ways I could play around it, because after turn 1, like you don't want a true replication because it's way too many resources to put in. And so that's the lineup I went with. Rick, who was playing Alchemist, he went Midas, Flask, Vitriol, Mercury, Compound, Venom. And so pregame, he basically trots out Mercury to kick, and Mercury kicks it like center-ish. It scatters towards like some kind of rough ground, but it's retrievable by Silence. So round 1, I basically activate Silence first, go up, pass the ball. Mercury activates, casts Fire on Silence since he's moved up, and like lands it like perfectly fine. And then at this point, I'm thinking like, oh crap, like he was able to do that from like where Mercury was standing. He's gonna step Mercury back, and then I'm not gonna be able to reach him. But he leaves Mercury there. And so then I'm like, okay, well, then now execute trap strategy. So Obelisk goes up, makes Mercury jog over. Alchemists aren't really in range to do much then besides like poison and the other ranged abilities. Midas isn't close enough to start trying to... Oh, the other big thing is he actually only put 5 influence on Midas turn 1, forgetting about Fear on Gast. So I figured at that point he's probably taking Where They Go from Mist, and then going to try to play like more scory against me. Or he forgot about Fear, which I figured he probably forgot about Fear. So then at that point, I'm holding Gast as long as possible until I can make sure that I can get him up there so like he can't get off like some random character play or something into him. So I run him across, and he's now Mercury's in melee with Obelisk. Alchemists do some stuff. It is safe for Gast to move up because he doesn't have enough remaining models that can do anything to Gast. So Gast charges in, does his thing, pushes him closer. Rage goes in, puts him down to, so he'll be down to about 1 health. At the beginning of the next turn. And then Mist actually, who got the ball from Silence earlier, does Mist shenanigans, gets up, Where They Goes into range of Compound, so Compound can't charge, and then buries a goal. So basically turn 1, I have Mercury over at 1 health in front of me, and basically a goal. So at that point I'm like,
that's a good start.
Yeah, the strategy went as good as it can possibly go at that point. So actually, so for beginning the next turn, the main thing I did was the dream play, essentially, which is if you have Silence, Silence was able to walk into that melee. He takes out Mercury, generates 2 momentum out of it off of his 2 momentous damage play and the fact that he killed a model. And then basically goes, and I actually land a bonus time shutout on Midas, and I tucked on Flask, who has pretty much no influence, is just chilling there. And then like at that point, I've basically gained a free next turn for whatever I want to do. And I don't know. When he kicked the ball back out too, it was near Venom, which I actually didn't know how to an 8-inch kick, and so Venom was actually able to generate momentum and grab the ball. Like he was able to hit, dodge away, snap the ball, go and shoot. Unfortunately, Dirge was actually like hanging by my goal on the way, and he shoots and he misses. And at that point, I feel really bad because he should have at least had 4 points in this game. But that missing goal, I mean, whenever you miss a goal, it's so much momentum lost because of how much resources and effort you put into it.
Right.
So he's back at 0 momentum. The scrum in the middle starts to go even worse for him. I'm able to get Vitriol and get her pretty much down and out. And then Dirge basically walks up, snaps the ball from the goal because it thudded against the goal. Snaps the ball, walks up to Obulus, drops it off to Obulus at midfield. And then start of turn 3, I'm at 8-0. And Obulus basically with full clip, beginning of turn 3, does Obulus things, walks forward, generates a billion momentum off of Flask, dodges towards the goal, shoots, scores. And that's the game.
He does Obulus things. Wow.
That's what he does, man. He just goes, generates 6 momentum and kicks a goal and like moves across the entire field. That's basically what he did.
Let's back up for a second. Let's back up because I think like the first turn there was a kind of a critical oversight by the Alchemist that like you said, Mercury was in position to do something. So he hits you with some fire, right?
Yeah.
And then he has the ability to pull back and pull out of your range, but he doesn't do it.
Yes.
How, other than that, how would you have played his first turn differently? Like if you were on the other side of your team?
I would have committed to the fact that I wanted. So the weird part is that I think that he was bent on getting unmasking off of gas, and if that was the case, I would have put more effort into getting unmasking and then played for turn 2 to have Midas go do Midas things, because he could very much be the antithesis of Obvious, where he goes in, you get a bunch of momentous unmaskings, especially if I mob Mercury. So, like, I mean, that could have actually been a really good ploy. Like, if he actually had enough influence on Midas to come and get unmasking, that trap strategy might have looked different. Only because if I got Mercury, but if Midas, like, if let's say I miss it's like a 5+ to shut out Midas, so that's like not easy to hit either. But like, let's say I miss that then, right, and then Midas on full clip runs into that mob of people and then like unmasks a billion times and wipes my team. It's probably not a good trade. So, I think a lot of it came down to actually the maintenance phase. I think after the maintenance phase and the way he deployed, like he basically just would have had to play more back early and let me try to develop my side of the board, and then make it. Then basically, what if I decide to come with Mist on that turn, like I did, he could respond and kill Mist like pretty easily because the rest of his team is there. I probably would. I mean, again, probably would have played a little bit more passively. I think stepping back, Mercury would have been a great play. It's just like it was just one of those like simple oversights where it was then like, okay, cool, I'm able to pull him across.
I think in the first turn, people are not, especially against teams that they don't have experience with, they don't really fully comprehend the threat range of the other team, and that's even more so against Morticians, right? Because of the fact that Obulus can use your own jogs against you. So catching people overextending, and a lot of times they don't even understand that, like, being 2 inches from your deployment zone at the wrong point of the turn is overextending. So anyway, let's go. Let's move on to the second round then.
Cool. Yeah. So round 2 was against Sam. He had Brewers. Sam was a local guy from, or not local for here, but he was a guy that was from Seattle area in Washington. And actually, he was at the first tournament I ever played, which was really funny because I realized, I was like, this guy looks familiar. And then he mentioned something, like I was talking about the paint scheme of my team and stuff like that. And he was like, oh, yeah, I'm from Seattle area. And we figured out, like, oh, we've actually, like he was actually at the first tournament I played. Because the first 6v6 game I ever played was a tournament where the TO basically was like, here, you can play my fish, and then I was like playing fish all of a sudden. And that was a lot of fun. But I knew that Sam would actually be probably really good, and because he's been playing for a while, if he's been playing since back then, he also went 12-0 against his previous opponent. So I knew that it wasn't going to be an easy match. The other thing I did was I actually didn't pay attention to his list, and I was like, oh, he's running like he's running like probably Tapper Brewers, because everybody else I was seeing around had Tapper Brewers. And then like I look across the board after like I show him my list, I'm like, oh yes, Esters. That's exciting, because I literally have like zero experience against Esters. I know that she has auras that she passes out. She's not as influence heavy. She has gluttonous mass, but overall, I've never actually played against Esther, so I don't actually. I theoretically I know what she can do, but like in game practice, I haven't seen her played a lot. So that was kind of like I was like, oh okay. But yeah, basically I played the Fangtooth lineup, and I don't know. It felt, I don't know. It was an interesting game. So I won so spoilers. I actually got kicked off to every game. I never got to use my kickoff strategy. I just always was receiving. So anyways, he kicks off to me. He uses Mash, and he kicks it again, kind of center, but he keeps Mash in a position where he's still within range of Esters or whatever he jogs up. So I used Dirge to go grab the ball and hand it back off to my team. He activates Scum to waste an activation. And so for like anybody out there that's waiting for like, it's actually pretty good to have dummy activations in mind. And what I mean by dummy activations is like, you know, like your mascot or someone that's going to do something very passive that doesn't mean you move up or develop your board, so that it passes it off to your opponent, so they have to activate or do something, and so they have to develop more than you, so that you can kind of get an idea of where things are and that they can't activate or hurt you anymore. And so I realized that basically, and that's kind of like, if you're playing against like my trap strategy, that's essentially what you do, is like you kind of have the dummy activations till I lose too many of my pieces to make that work, that then I have to go to plan B after that. So I see him do the Scum move, and I'm like, okay, he's not going to fall for this as easily. So I encourage him by moving up Silence as my next activation, who's not part of the combo. But I basically, like on a lark, I'm like, okay, like it's really easy to land tucked on Mash, so like let's do it. I land tucked on Mash, and so now he's activating Mash next, and he's like, okay, I'm Brewers, I'm not really scared of stuff, it's Mash. Runs him up the field. At which point he's close enough to bring over the line. So I send out Obulus and say like, Mash, Red River, send Mash right over. Mash comes over the line. He responds by then bringing up Esters, who I get to see her glory. She runs up, and then she lands. She puts down the blasted earth and the fire in the same area, and basically does 4 damage to Obulus and Silence, and she lights them both on fire, and now there's rough ground and fire in between Ghast and Mash. So I'm basically like, oh, so that's like what Air Denial looks like, because literally the cool thing about that is it's 2 different forms of mobility stopping, which is rough ground, which I could spend the momentum to get through. But then the instant I enter that AoE, I'm on fire and I lose 2 inches, which would take a momentum to remove regardless. But it's still like there's no way to kind of get through that unless I get creative. I'm also when I ran Mash, because Mash is a little bit slower, without Gas to get in there, Fangtooth is actually currently out of range. So I'm like, okay, this is not like. I was like, so this is like a really good response. Plus Esters is close, so they're good. So actually what I do next, and the reason I love the ball in Guild Ball, is I actually use Mist to pass to Fangtooth and actually let him 4-inch dodge forward. So now that he actually is in a bigger, more threatening range. And then I allow his board to develop a little bit more till it's just Fangtooth and Gas left. And he actually moves up Spigot close enough that what I end up doing is I end up using Gas to charge Spigot, and I unmasking on Spigot, and that pushes, and I'm to the left of Mash, which pushes Mash down to the right, which then allows Gas to be able to free charge him. And then Gas does Gas things and is able to get into him far enough so that I don't have to worry about unpredictable movement. And then that kind of sets up my next turn. And the all the pushing actually is really good because then I push back his front line really far. And I think at the end of that turn too, he somehow has a way to get Hooper around Mist, I think, or like threaten Mist for next turn. So there's that there because I moved up Mist after I passed off the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so the end of turn one, like it's not as gravy as the Alchemist start, but it's still really good because now I've actually been able to like knock down and pin down a model that's pretty like Mash. Like once you get past his unpredictable movement, like he doesn't do a whole lot after that to defend himself. And since because of the push and Esther's being far away, that then creates this new that makes him even weaker because normally he's like 3-2, I think, if Esther's is nearby. And so now he's just a 3-1, and I'm able to deal with that a lot easier. So turn 2 basically involves me killing Mash a lot, and then me eventually getting the ball to Mist to score. Behind their lands, I get around behind Hooper. Eventually, after he knocks me down and beats me up, but I have momentum, and I'm able to like actually pass the ball to Mist while she's engaged and get her out of the combat that way. And then what else is there? Oh yeah, Esther's at some point. So so my memory is not super great on this game. I'm gonna be honest. I think there's an extra turn slid in somewhere around how this develops, but the highlight basically being Esther's eventually legendaries, and I find out what Esther's does. And she charged Fangtooth after he already lost Gluttonous Mass and dealt like 24 points of damage to him, putting him at like 5 health. So that was good. She did lots of wrapping on Fangtooth, and Fangtooth got very low very, very quickly. And then the next turns were characterized by, I think, eventually like he actually won a roll to go first, and one of his activations involved him moving Esther's into range of Obulus. And the tough part about this is like Sam, like the entire game, like he after Mist scored a goal, he charged Mist and killed Mist. But he every time he would attack any of my models, he'd be like, do they have unpredictable movement? And for whatever reason, like this is the time where he doesn't ask that question, moves in with Esther's, and I'm like, unpredictable movement. And he's like, oh my God, there's no way. And it was funny because he was talking about the picture that Dave took of us playing our game, and he says like that look of pain on my face, that's the exact moment. And I was like, yeah, that's probably it. So the interesting part about this was like the whole interaction where like Mist went and scored, and then he goes and kills Mist. So Mist and Mash, when they're coming on the board, after Mist scored, he was like, I don't want to deal with you scoring. I just want to brawl with you. And he came back with the 2 takeouts on Fangtooth and Mist. So when I was up 6-0 really quickly, and then he came back and diced me up, and I was like, crap, like, okay, this is a game. I'm in a brawl now. And so he just kicks the ball out to the side because he's like, screw it. I don't want to deal with the scoring game. He brings Mash on near the ball, and since he killed Mist, I bring Mist on that side, and that side actually happened to have fast ground. So he was actually in a situation where I had Mist loaded up, and I could actually get to him because of the fast ground and get to the ball. And if he went any farther back, he'd be behind his own goal line, which means you don't generate momentum, so he doesn't want any of that. And after we scrum for a little bit, he actually kicks the ball to the center of the field, and it scatters. So he long bombs it, and it actually scatters to Friday, which is actually pretty amazing. And I'm like,
Sweet.
well done. And Obvious had already activated, and I had gone back and like revenge killed Spigot for killing Mist. And so I had Gas left, and Gas goes actually charges against Friday, knocks her down. The ball actually, after knocking down, scatters into him. So he picks up the ball, and then I'm at this point where it's like, it's like, can Gas shoot a goal? But I couldn't. So Gas actually just kicks it back out into space, and with the models that are activated already, he couldn't defend against Mist basically snapping the ball, going and shooting. So he actually went and tried to kill, I think, Silence, who was actually pretty low at the time. Doesn't actually kill Silence with like Hooper. And then I just go and I kick a goal, and I end up winning 12-4.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that's a lot of information, but there's still some blurry stuff in there
Yeah. I guess it's hard to know when you want to score takeouts, or I guess that was more opportunistic on your part to see a goal show up in front of you and then just take it.
Yeah, I mean, when I knocked down Friday, I was like, okay, the ball's either going to scatter towards them, but it was actually a really good position so basically Obulus had taken up the position that Mist once held and went and killed Spigot, and so he's basically kind of like at the goal line over there, and then you had Silence, and now Gas is right next to her knocking down the ball. So essentially, it was a position where if it did scatter somewhere else, like Obulus is over kind of in that area, have enough momentum that Obulus then gets to, like, if he actually gains possession of the ball, Obulus can make them pass and do all sorts of stuff. So it's probably going to sit in space, and I'm probably still in a good position. And if it scatters back behind Gas, then that's great. Mist can go and get it. But it happened to scatter to Gas, so I was basically able to set up Mist for the run through. So that was very fortunate for me.
Nice. Okay. Cool. Okay, so 2-0, feeling pretty good about yourself at this point, you might think.
I think one of the things I forgot too is that since the Alchemist game went well for me, we had the lunch break. So one of the saving graces was I hadn't eaten yet, so I got a good amount of time not only to go eat with my wife who was there, but I also got to check out the other tables and see who was playing and see how the games are going and that kind of stuff. And that's also really fun to me too. I actually like to watch Guild Ball a lot and see what players decide to do and learn from them in a lot of cases. So that was the cool part. And the Brewers game was that one was fairly quickly. I think it ended at the end of turn 3 or beginning of, or somewhere in 4, midway through 4 or something. I'm not quite sure, but that one was fairly quick too. So I got some extra time to kind of hang out and watch and check out competition. The other cool part was that you started me on table 1. So I basically got to play in the same place all day because it kept winning, which was nice. And the other part about that too is that generally as the people next to you or in those first few tables are the people that will move up to face you if they win. So I'm kind of right next to my competition and get to witness them play, which is fortunate. I would say.
So David wants to know how you remember all of this.
So actually, when I play, I actually take notes. So I actually have a notebook.
I saw you taking some notes in game 3.
Yeah, so I actually have some notes, and I just take down quick notes about what are the highlights. What are the key moments that are out of the ordinary, or the big plays, who scored, who got taken out, so on and so forth, or what was the boneheaded move I did, or what was the mistake my opponent made, or because you make a lot of mistakes even when you're playing well. And I made a few. The one big one I did against Brewers is I actually, but the big one was how Obulus engaged into the scrum before Esther's came for him. Was after match was done I went into Hooper, and he had 3 momentum, and for some reason in my head, I'm right as my turn came, I'm legendarying Obulus, I'm stealing his momentum. And sure enough, I charge him, and I don't legendary, and he's I counterattack, and I'm an idiot. I'm literally an idiot. He wouldn't be able to counterattack. Now I have to waste this charge on a knockdown on Hooper, and I'm just So yeah, that was one of my not so great moments. But you make mistakes all the time like that, and even unpredictable movement that came into play quite a bit, and it's even something that I almost neglected to play around with Mash, because I'm not used to playing against Mash either. And for a big guy, I don't look at the big guy and go, he has unpredictable movement. I don't think anybody does.
I'm a little surprised that you don't have like a reference card that has a name, the names of all the players that have on it. I think that would be a cool reference card.
Dude,
if you when you go to a tournament, like, okay, I'm gonna have this card. It's like the player cheat sheet that has all the players that have unpredictable movement, and then the players that have, if you're not Midas or Hoist, the players that have True Replicate, and then the other side of that, the players that have stuff that you want to replicate.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the hardcore, like if I was going into whatever the tournament is where you get to like potentially fly to UK or whatever, like that's I mean that's a tournament where I would probably go in with even more prep and strats, and then I'd probably have a list. I would probably even have I'd probably even bring a list of players that I thought were like good targets, or players that I felt were safe. Either they have really good counterattacks or they have really good defensive stats that I'm going to have to do something more to engage them. And then have have that cheat sheet. I would have a cheat sheet for those teams set up so that when I looked at the board, I could easily assess what my next target was, versus in this game, I kind of feel it out. In some models I still don't have experience against. So I'm just like, all right, like I'll go for, like, I know, for example, Brewers, like Spigot is like one of the easiest people to kill on Brewers. Everybody else has like Tough Hide, some way to escape from you, something good, knockdowns everywhere, something like that. Even Esther's has Gluttonous Mass and a bunch of stuff. So it's like Spigot's like a guy I'm like, okay, I can kill Spigot. Match was another guy that when I looked at him, besides unpredictable movement, like he didn't have Tough Hide, didn't have anything else like that, and he only has like 17 hit points, I think, or something not really high. So I was like, okay, cool, I can kill that. that's killable for me. So yeah, I don't know. I think that would probably be the next evolution of prep for a tournament. But I think that is a good idea. Like you said, is like like everybody with unpredictable movement, whoever's really hard to lock down. Like Obulus is usually a guy that's like a lot of careful thought, effort, and creativity has to go into getting and killing Obulus in a lot of cases.
Like those of us who have a lot of 1-inch melee, but we like to be in melee, aka butchers, and we'll say honor, for example. We need to have that memorized. Like who has who has Even it even helps to know who has access to 2-inch dodges or push dodges early in their playbook, because for counterattacks.
Yeah, it's actually why I've started to go base to base with models a lot more. Like usually a lot of people are like, oh, I want to be like at max distance, but if they can counterattack, it's usually always better to be base to base, because then they usually the best people have is a 2-inch dodge. There's a few models that are like Velocity, for example. If she gets 4 hits or whatever, it's a mechanical unit, but if she's based on a woman, so if she gets 4 hits, she can do a momentous 2-inch push dodge, or 2-inch push and a 2-inch dodge, so she's gone. Like you're not going to be able to lock down that in any way, shape, or form. So, but there's certain models that, like, for a lot of times, like for example, an unpredictable movement model, if you engage them with a model with 2-inch reach and you're base to base, like they actually can't escape you. Like Obulus can't use his 2-inch dodge to get out of your 2-inch reach because you're base to base. So that's one thing that, especially when engaging them, I'm always like base to base. Like against fish, a lot of times too, base to base, because a lot of times. Even a 1-inch model, they have a lot of 1-inch dodges, but some of them just actually don't have really high on the play results. So if you enter them with a decent defense model, or you swift stance someone as like a butcher player, they're not going to be slippery enough to get away in a lot of cases.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, all right. So are we back to game 3 now?
Let's do it. So this is Dave. So Dave's in the chat. So he's playing Butchers. He went 12-4 against another one of the Seattle, or I can't remember if he was the Seattle guy or not, but Eli. He was the other Morticians player. So this is the other side note. Corey Briggs, I expected to play in the tournament, and he plays Morticians. And I knew there was a high chance that like he was playing really well in like your guys' local scene. And I was talking to Dave like, the day like on Friday, we met for dinner or whatever. He's like, yeah, Corey is probably going to be like one of the better players. And so I actually like for my prep, I actually reached out to some people on the Guild Ball forums, and I was like, because I've literally never played a Morticians versus Morticians matchup, like even like, so I was just like, I just reached out to some people on the forums, like, hey, like what is like what are some strategies against this? So I came in prepared for anti-Mortician stuff, and then Corey doesn't play because he's a good guy and lets someone who traveled from far away play in the tournament. And then Dave comes and does me a huge favor and basically murders the other butcher player. So there I am. I'm just like, thank you, Dave. Like,
I'll tell you the saga of Corey a little bit later. It's kind of a messed up story what happens to Corey, but he bounces back.
Okay. But yeah, so anyways, Dave, he went 12-4 against Morticians. I think he told me that was like his first like tournament win against Morticians, but either way, 12-4 is like convincing. So I'm like, all right, this is like not going to be the easiest thing in the world. And I take my comfort list. So I have Rage. Rage is back in. Fangtooth's back out. And he's running Ox, Princess, Boar, Tenderizer, Brisket, and Shank. And he actually sides in Tenderizer specifically because I'm playing Mist. And he knows that I'm going to try to score. And Tenderizer has Goalkeeper, which buffs it up to 5, which I think is actually a really good ability. So as long as you stay home, it's actually super solid. And he has Rush Goalkeeper, which Morticians have a lot of ways to get around, Mist specifically as well. But just by the fact that you need a 5 actually makes goal kicks really hard. So, but the one problem with that lineup is it is a bunch of big guys. That means Tenderizer's staying home. And Boar against Gas can shut him down pretty well. So against that team, I'm actually feeling pretty good against it, just simply because like he's going to be down to Ox, Princess, Brisket, and Shank against my in the scrum kind of phase. And I feel like my team's good enough that if I can play it right, especially if I get off my turn 1 goes well, like I'm in a good shape.
Well, just real quick, if against Gast, Boar can't do anything except for a free charge he's open, right? Or can he not do the free?
He can, because he can have 1 influence. The problem is that once he's engaged, he can't do anything because he can only hold 1 influence, and he has to spend 2 to swing. So unless he can engage someone else, or he tries to leave, which he'll get knocked down easily when he tries to leave, he's basically turned off, which is like actually pretty big. Because Boar is much like Rage, I think, is like mini Boar, where it's like if Boar keeps getting to activate and do stuff, then like you're in trouble. Whereas actually where I feel like I talked a little bit about this on the Facebook group, but I feel like the new because we actually haven't talked a lot about the new cards.
Right.
But Steamroller being able to give you the 2-inch push and 2 damage on a charge is actually really good, partially because you can unlock Boar with it. Because a lot of times people aren't going to be base to base with Boar. So like if you came in and sent someone else to played Steamroller, charged Gas after he's activated, push Gas out of the way, now Boar's back online, and I have to re-engage him with someone to turn him off again. And no one's as good as he's going to be able to at least swing, and he can deal a lot of damage. Like if he's still at least doing something, that's better than nothing. Right. So I think cards like that are really good. Anyways, let's hop. We can hop into the game.
Okay.
So Dave kicks off towards the center, I believe. So Dirge grabs the ball, gives it to Obulus, does Obulus things. I think at this point he puts out like Princess or does some other move. And again, it's like kind of like that dummy activation thing. So I basically buy time with I move Silence, and I think I move Silence and do nothing or something. I don't fully remember, but I was doing activations that were just to waste time. And then he sprints out Ox, which normally like against anybody else kind of makes sense because you're setting up for turn 2. If you're out of other people's engage rates, it's fine. Problem is that Obulus has 16-inch threat range with Puppet Master, so I send Obulus out to go grab Ox, which is probably the best target I could get. He also, I think he put on the ability that gives him tough skin, so he has 2 armor, so he's 3-2. So he's not just 3-1, I think, which is his base. But I walk him in, and then I do the trap thing. Gas goes in, roughs him up, punches him forward. Rage comes up. I think I also use Steamroller on Rage, and I think I hit with every hit on the charge, which he's engaged by Obulus and Ghast at this point. So it was like something disgusting amount of hits and damage. And by the end of it's all done, I actually even bring in Mist because I was like, this is the holy grail if I kill Ox. So like, I actually even bring in Mist, and Mist like literally just was like poking him with his staff so that he gets so he's even lower for next turn, that I can just like basically have him go off. And I'm just the beauty of this too is I'm just out of range of also Shank, which was on a flank. So even Shank can't get in and activate on turn 1 to generate momentum. So I'm guaranteed turn 1 with Ox at my feet. It's going to be at like 1 health or whatever. And that's pretty much like the best thing I could have asked for. And at that point, it's basically like I'm sure Dave was not liking his situation. If that didn't happen, a lot tougher game. But because of that, my next turn, I basically activate Ghast. And since he had charged Boar up, Ghast charges Boar and unmaskings in range of Ox to kill Ox with unmasking, and to now Boar is turned off. So my turn 2 beginning is actually really good as well.
And let me ask you a real quick question though before you get into turn 2. One thing I'm noticing is that your whole your turn 1 approach is to either get in a bunch of damage, but ultimately it seems like you're just trying to win that momentum war in turn 1 and set up the real hurt that's about to happen in turn 2. Is that accurate?
It's sort of accurate, right? Like if ideally I get someone low that I can get I can set up a takeout for turn 2, but if I can't, then I'm probably using the ball to pass to generate momentum, and then at that point, I can still kind of guarantee I'm setting up for turn 1 to have the first activation. So I'm kind of going to do something similar, but I'm basically going to set up everybody just in range, but I will have passed to generate momentum, and that will hopefully give me the edge to go first. Morticians are terrible at passing, so that's not the best strategy. So I much prefer the like Red Rover bring someone over strategy, even if it's a big guy, because even then, like I'm still just generating a ton of momentum off of them. And usually, if you're the kicking team, if like someone's on your opponent's side of the pitch, like no one on your team can do much the first round unless like you're like a range team. Like Hunter's probably good with like range attacks, or engineers or something. Could probably get within range to do something, but most other factions, like you're using like the only other people that have mobility are like Shank, who is still out of range, or like a striker who you're not going to want to send over there to generate momentum or do anything else.
Now, are there any matchups where you do actually fall back on passing the ball around for momentum, or is it pretty much always you're trying to score momentous damage on the first turn?
I think when you take Rage, you're trying to always have Rage work as much as he can possibly work. Like every turn, like it's even worth like puppet mastering, or like I said, Ghast has 2-inch push on 2. Like Ghast can literally just go over and start whacking people, knocking them down, and just moving them off, so that he can just keep activating. So in that cases, that's what I'm doing. If I don't know what matchup I wouldn't do that in. The only time I'm not doing that is if I realize really quickly that they know what I want to do and they're just going to play passively. So I'm like, okay, then at that point I'm going to generate the momentum to make sure that I go first turn 2. I think engineers would be probably the closest one that would be hard to do.
Or hunters, right?
Yeah, hunters would be another one that would be hard if they don't bring someone up. But yeah.
Cool. Okay.
So anyways, that was basically like the dream start, and then after that, like the next turn, like again, like Boar's basically taken down. I basically go in the later turns and change my focus to Princess, eventually kill Princess with Rage, and I think missed. No, I don't think I had scored yet. I think we go to another turn, and like because I think there's like a battle for the ball essentially, like where Dave and I were trading tackles a bunch, and eventually it gets to a point where he, after the turn and Ox died, he brings it back on. I get really excited and shuttle cast off to Ox, who just came on the board, to push him off the board. but I don't wrap far enough to get the unmasking and the 2-inch push. So I can't push him off the board. So I get sad inside. And because and so basically Ox is just left there and Boar's like knocked down. And I think he generates a momentum and scores with Shank. And then off of that goal, then I score with Mist. And then there's, I think in the later turns, there's some point where Obolus ends up back with the ball again, being a jerk face. Oh, so this is the big thing. When I go and score with Mist, I actually use the tap-in card. So I got close enough that I was within range, and then I kind of negated the goalkeeper ability by being able to play tap-in, which I think all those cards, I think tracking back and tap-in are great cards if you have models that can utilize them. Because having a goal be a 3+ is great. You can actually save momentum in that case in a lot of cases. Or negate goalkeeper, right? And tracking back essentially gives you a goalkeeper for a round, which could be any of your models, which for me is Dirge in a lot of cases.
There needs to be a bounty for if you score a tap-in snapshot with Greed. There needs to be a bounty specific. Because that would be amazing.
That would be amazing. The dream.
Actually, if you could just get Greed to the other goal alive, that's already fairly amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, so basically the first few turns are just me killing Ox and Princess, and then the goal we start a kind of goal race, and then there's a point where I'm actually talking to Dave as Obolus has the ball. I'm like, I could go try to score, but it's on a 5+, and Obulus's best is like 3 dice. But he's like, and then Dave's just like, but you could win. And I'm like, you're right, Dave. And so like, and then I go, Obolus runs over. I engage Tenderizer again, so he can't rush keeper me. So I shadow lagged out, charged Tenderizer, and then he counterattacks. I don't get enough for a knockdown on Tenderizer because I think he used the one that adds defense, or he defensive stanced or whatever. So I take my 2-inch dodge. I 2-inch dodge back into Boar, who actually charged Mist because after Mist scored, Mist tends to always get ganked up on whenever Mist scores. So I basically bounce back into Boar, generate some momentum, dodge into goal range. I don't have tap in anymore, so I just kick the 3 dice shot and it goes in. I would be fairly confident after that point having Obolus and Mist around a goal. Like, I think the creative thing to do if he got to go first somehow on the next turn, because I have so many ways to generate momentum between those two big brutes, would be for him to grab the ball and kick it off the board or something to get it to recenter. But even if I had missed that goal, I would have felt pretty good going into the next match. And I also felt pretty good that match simply having... I mean, again, just taking Ox off the board. Again, if Boar's out on that lineup and Ox is off the pitch, and I'm basically against what was Princess, Brisket, Shank, then I'm feeling like that. Like the rest of my team versus those 3 is like pretty good. Those are odds I'll take most days. And so I got fortunate with that, and I was able to win that game 12-4.
Nice. Okay. Kevin says I'm throwing you off with achievement brainstorming. Nice. All right, so 3rd game in, and so now we're at the essentially what is the final match, because at this point there's only 2 undefeated players left, and it's you and Matthew Johnson who's playing. Actually, that's right. Right, there is only 2 undefeated players left at the 4th round.
Yeah, so it was me and Matt. Matt had a lot of close games. I actually witnessed some of like the 11, like there was like a few 11, 12 games that were happening near me that were absolutely amazing. It was literally coming down to time, and like he beat Lewis on Brewers the previous round. He had a 1 minute activation to go and score a goal or lose. So
I saw that.
That was pretty intense. Yeah, he brought you over to clock it for him. He was like, start my minute. So yeah, I thought that like that game was pretty intense. I will say that Fish is probably the team I least like to see across the board, simply because again, I can't get it. Like it basically, it takes away my comfort of 2-2s and replaces it with like I need a lot more takeouts, and I have to play keep away, so the game is going to be longer just by the process of the fact that it's Fish, and they're going to be sending a billion vectors of scoring threats at me, and I'm going to have to try to take the ball and play keep away as part of my strategy versus trying to go score or kill people. That's there. I'm usually always killing people against Fish, but it's a different game. It's a completely different dynamic, especially against a Shark-led Fish team, which his lineup was Shark, Salt, Siren, Angel, Sakana, and Kraken. And his team was gorgeous, by the way, too. He won Best Painted, I think, right?
Yep, he sure did.
Yeah, that team was like there's another Fish team there that had like the similar scenic bases, I think. But that team was just like it popped so much to me. I think the other close runner up to me also was Glenn's team. I think Glenn's team only suffered from the fact that I've seen Glenn's team before. So I think seeing that Fish team and be like, that kind of caught me. And the team was gorgeous on the field. And it also made me like, it's funny because I noticed taking my models there, like my models actually came out pretty dark in that lighting. But his pops, there was like this weird thing where like there were clouds over my Morticians and then like sunlight over his Fish. Like it's what it felt like seeing them on the board. But anyways, whenever I go into that game, it's always going to be nervous because even if you kill their models, they just come back on the like if you kill Shark comes back on and he has a billion threat range and they're still going to get influence and he's going to like do Shark things. So taking him out, it feels good. But it's like anybody you take out, if they bring them on, they have huge threat range. They can still go and score a goal. So you can't ever just let them bring them on for free, and you have to be very smart about your positioning. So this game was probably one of the most fun games of Guild Ball I've ever played. Not just because I won, but because it was just purely just like a good, solid game. And we'll just jump into it. So he actually does like a really weird like onside kick setup where like half of his team is like on one side of the field and Shark is on the boundary line, and he runs up and he kicks it to the front of a forest on my left hand side. I had already prepared for this because I had Dirge over there who flies, so he's like, I don't care about you kicking to the forest. I can still go get the ball and come back. And I had given him an influence so that he could sprint. So Dirge goes, gets the ball, does his thing. Kraken runs up. Dirge dropped off the ball to Silence, so Silence passes to Obulus. He brings up Siren next to Kraken, who has Beautiful, which means that she is kind of immune to the Obulus pull, although I'd love to grab her.
Yeah, it's like plus 5 inches to their range, right?
Yeah, and he's basically the other key point to this is actually because I was feeling so good about my comfort lineup, I didn't take Graves, and I probably should have, but I was just like, I love Rage, and he's been working for me, and it's like a model I hadn't really played with beforehand, so I was just like feeling the hype of the Rage. The other key note too is that around Dave's match, people started actually crowding around the board and watching more. And this match kind of became more the same, especially as like the other matches got done. So like I would say that like the thing I'm not normally used to is having a bunch of people like around me when I'm on a clock as well. So that was a different, unique experience. But at this point, I'm down. Gas and Rage. It's Gas, Rage, and Obvious are left for activations. Mist had already activated, and so it's basically in a situation where it's like, okay, like he's not going to give me a better target to Puppet Master. So Obulus just goes out, and I just grab Kraken. I'm just like, all right, Kraken, come over here. We're just gonna I'm gonna generate a bunch of momentum off of you. Also, you had we had the door prize, which was kill a mascot and yell Carl's Jr. And he actually had line of sight with Shark to Dirge. And he goes, and I was not expecting this, obviously, but because of obviously some prompting, he goes over and just kills Dirge turn 1. I'm like, okay, so now he has 2 VP, and obviously he loses Dark Doubts, is able to clear away momentum, but I'm still kind of crap in my head because normally Fish are trying to go for 3 goals, but because he took out, Dirge is one of the models they can kill. So at this point, I know that at some point he actually has an option to go for a 2-2 against me, where normally if he had to go for 3 goals and I play keep away, it's very hard to get that 3rd goal because the second one will come so late that he'll have to be in really great position to do anything because usually fish don't hold on to a lot of momentum to win turns. And if I'm just butchering fish, then I'm just like stacking momentum up to the ceiling. So anyways, he goes and does that, and that's kind of a shocker to me, at least. But
he really wanted that hunter's patch.
Yeah, he did, and he got it. And then so at this point, it's kind of an interesting setup because I don't necessarily. I'm not necessarily in a position where like Kraken's not a model that I'm going to be able to kill really, but I can control. So he's knocked down and after I pulled him in, like he's not the one getting influence. It's all the periphery fish players. And the other key point that happened when Shark came in to kill Dirge is he actually used his legendary play Caught in a Net and was within range of Rage. So Rage actually couldn't do Rage things. And he basically was locked down because he only had like 3-inch movement. So I actually tracked him back more towards the center and near the goal on that turn. But that was actually a big thing where I wasn't able to generate as much momentum as I wanted to. But I still won the first turn. And I think the way it goes is the only way you normally want to score against fishermen is to win the game. Like go as like the last points if you want to and go score.
Yeah, take it as the last score. Yeah.
Yeah, or the one perspective I like is if it's the first goal, and you can kind of like and you set tempo with like takeouts and stuff like that. I actually kind of like that. And so in that case, I actually go and actually just score the first goal with Mist, and then make him spend actions to get the ball back up the field to Shark, who then properly goes to my back lines, buries a goal, so we basically trade goals. But at this point, what happens is now Shark is literally like behind my goal. So everybody literally just like turns and is like, hey, Shark, what's going up? Let's be friends. And he doesn't want to be friends, but I make him be friends. I make him come over to the party and just we beat him up. So I actually go and I kill Shark. And so we're actually looking at something like, I think going into turn 3, we're looking at like 6-6 because we both have goals. I've killed Shark. He's killed Dirge. I've punted his ball far out to the right. And this is again where the crowd stuff starts to mess with you because like as I'm like measuring the ball, like kicking the ball out to the right, which is the correct choice in my mind because I've missed who went and scored and like dodged back into Siren. And then I have the most spaces over there. And there's a few activations, but I know that like they're not going to be able to get to the ball. But there's people on the side. They're like, oh, I don't know about that. Like, you kind of hear the murmurs, and I'm just like, and then it actually makes me pause on the clock, and I'm like, is this the best play? Because the left actually is safer because it's only Angel and Kraken. But the other part that clicks in my head is like, I'm in the finals. I'm in the finals. I'm just gonna do this. Like I believe I'm doing the right choice. So like I just like reaffirm myself. It's like I got here. I just need to trust my instincts. So I kick the ball out. And then I kind of have him tied up in the middle. I eventually dodge Mist out, and he's I can tell in his because I've played a bunch of fish and I've played a bunch of morticians. I know all the tricks, and I could tell in his head he's like, I'm gonna wait till Mist goes and picks up that ball, and then Siren's gonna go over there and seduce him to pass it to me. And I run over there, I get the ball, and I dodge even farther away, and then I drop the ball an inch from me. And he goes, "Dang it, you've played fish, haven't you?" I'm like, "Yep." I'm like,
Yep.
I play Obulus. I know all the tricks. Don't hold on to the ball. That's how this works. So then he preps Sakana and Siren to come get me, and I win the roll for the next turn. So the next turn, Mist grabs the ball, and Mist is like, "Hey, all right, new strategy." Like sprints all the way to the other side of the field where Angel and Kraken are sitting with 0 influence. By the way, Shark also came on the same side of the field. So I'm looking at like full influence Shark, Siren, and Sakana in the middle of the field with Mist over there in the corner. I'm just like, all right, time to book it. So Mist actually busts all the way across the way. and passes the ball off to, I think, Obulus or something. And I actually hold on to the ball because at this point I'm like, okay, if she wants to walk forward and seduce, she won't have enough influence with how she was allocated to be able to kick the ball and score, and won't have momentum unless she generates it earlier. So I'm not too scared about that. And then if she does do that, then I basically go kill her because she can't actually hold the ball, or Obulus just makes her pass it back, right? From 3 inches away, which is not very far. But anyways, so she goes and actually he responds by doing that to get the ball away from me, because he doesn't want me to keep running away with it, especially with no influence on the rest of the models. And he actually, I think, unsnaps it after he gets the pass back as well to keep it farther away. But Obulus doesn't care, so Obulus goes over, gets the ball, passes it back to Rage, and then dodges back into melee range of Siren. And this is all basically to clear the charge lane to Siren. And then Gas meanwhile is just like holding everybody up in the middle. Kraken has been knocked down for ages and has no influence, so he's not doing anything. And Angel again has no influence. So basically everything goes back onto Siren at this point. Siren eventually dies. And it's another game of me trying to get the ball away. And I eventually hand off the ball to Silence, who has no influence, and he just uses his activation to just move towards the no influence Angel and Kraken. So at this point we're 8-6. And Shark has come back onto the field. And then this is the very interesting part of the game where the 2-2 strategy for Fisherman kind of unravels them a little bit, because he realizes like that's kind of what he has to do because I'm keeping the ball away from him. So in his head he's like, all right, I got to kill Mist. Like Mist is she's in the middle. She's locked up with Sakana. Like Shark can actually do damage. So in the middle of the turn where Shark came back on with all his influence, he was like, let's just kill Mist. And then I just need to get the ball away from him and score 1 goal. And I got it. Like this is the path to go, because otherwise he's just running away. Even if I score another one, he's going to do this again, waste another 2 turns. I'm not going to live through that. So he goes for Mist, and I'm just carefully using my momentum at this point to heal Mist for like 8 essentially a turn, which is really hard for Fisherman to race with a 5+. Yeah. But he eventually does do it, but it's at the point where I think there was an activation where Shark had 4 attacks, damaged Mist for like a bunch, and then had Mist at 1 hit point and just needed to have 1 5 and miss 2 attack rolls, not rolling a single 5, just with 2 attack rolls. So Mist survives again. I heal Mist, and Mist kind of survives a little bit longer and prolongs that. And in that turn as well, I come back at Shark and I kill Shark. Rage kills Shark for the second time in the game. So Shark gets carted back off the field, and now it eventually kills Mist, and now we're 10-8. And Silence, who had the ball earlier and was now surrounded by Kraken and Angel, who were also being engaged, he does some fancy Silence footwork and punts the ball. And I also get a max scatter like away, so even Angel with influence can't actually get to the ball to start to send it back on that turn. But she just kind of sets up for next turn. So now we're at the point where it's 10-8. I have a bunch of momentum. I'm going to go first. Sakana's sitting there with like 11 hit points in front of me, and I have Ghast and Obulus around him. The ball's out in space. He's bringing back Shark on. And this is the point in the game where I'm like, I've won. Like I've won the game. I'm going first. Obulus has all the influence. I have Ghast. There's no way that he can take a model and just score from over there because it's too far away. It's like on the other side of the pitch. I'm like, cool, this is over. But this is the point where like thinking like that is really terrible and awful, and you should never ever think that in your head, because you will do stupid stuff, and I do stupid stuff. So the correct play is I activate Ghast first. Ghast goes, and with a surefire knockdown, I knock down Sakana, and since he has no momentum, Sakana cannot stand up and get away. Like Obulus then follows up with his 8 influence on a knockdown Sakana, or if he stood up Sakana and dodged out of range, doesn't matter. He would have took damage somewhere in there, but basically Sakana can't get away, so I would be able to finish him off with Obulus. What actually happens is I activate Obulus first, it also doesn't dawn on me at any point to cast confidence on myself, which would also make sure I knock him down. Because even if Obelisk goes first and I knock him down for sure, still feeling really good about this because he just can't escape. And what happens is I charge with Obelisk, not confidence, and I get one hit. And I dodge towards him. I spend the rest of my influence. I get him down to like 3. But because he isn't knocked down, he activates, dodges out of my range. I can't kill him with a counterattack very easily. And Gast he wasn't engaged by Gast either when I was attacking with Obelisk. So he dodges away and sprints away, and he's out of range of everybody. And now I'm sitting there and I'm looking across at the trifecta of Shark, Angel, and Siren with influence. And I'm just going, they're coming. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I actually have blown this game in a significant way that this is not good for me. And so he's sitting over there and he's like, yes, so since he activated Sakana, I'm like, I can still salvage this. I still have the power. Silence, buddy, go do work. You're near Kraken. You can go generate the momentum. He generates the momentum. I bonus time a tucked at Shark because I know if Shark is the one with all the influence. So if Shark even if Shark passes to Angel doesn't have a lot of influence. Like his plan is to have Angel pass to Shark, and then the Shark with all his infinite abilities goes in, and he has the best chance or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I go to tuck Shark on 4+ on 2 dice. I whiff. I rolled like 2 1s or something, and then I'm like, crap. He's sighing relief over there. He's super hype. And I'm just sitting there being like, oh my gosh. So this is where I'm like, all right, now it's my fallback plan. It's time to pull to bring in the champ, which is AK Dirge. So Dirge is near the goal. My last activation after he does the Angel pass to Shark and gets him within range to prepare for the Shark is coming for me. I move him back and I play the plot card tracking back. So now I have goaltender and goal is 5+, with Dirge, kind of lined up on that side. So
when did you bring Dirge back in?
Oh, so after Dirge died, I think it was like the second turn. I literally generate. I had like a stack of like 12 or something momentum or something ridiculous. And so at that point, I'm just like on Silence's activation, I was like, bring Dirge back. So Dirge got brought back pretty quickly, especially around the Shark killing. I think it was around that time that when everybody turned on Shark, and all the momentum was flowing, that I was doing that. So Dirge was back on. He falls back, and I play the card. So freaking the MVP's coming. So he goes forward, tidal surges, sprints out to the center. So he's not. I had moved Dirge down to the side because I mainly didn't want him over there. If he goes to center, then he's actually near Rage, who hasn't activated yet. And so he pops out to the center. And at this point, he actually I think he calls you over because he's trying to see if Dirge is within the range of the goal. And at this point, actually in my head, I'm like, you know what? Like, I should have won this game, but I flubbed it so hard. Like if he's gonna score, he's gonna score, and I don't want to sit here and measure like a quarter of an inch to see if I'm gonna rob him of a die. So I'm just like, you know what, dude? Like, I have to take the shot. And Matt, being a good player, he reached out. He's like, hey, whatever happens here, good game. And I was like, okay. Yep. And he shoots the goal. He rolls 5 dice, and he gets a 1, a 2, 2 3s, and a 4, and he misses. And Shark whiffs the goal.
I was there and saw that thing.
Yeah. Rage then Furious is in, carves up Shark for the 3rd time, and I go on to win.
Wow. Yeah, that was a wild ending.
Yeah, plot cards, man. The plot cards in season 2 are so much more tactical and just overall better across the board. That I think that the impression that I got out of the main impression I got out of the tournament was that the season 2 plot cards actually added a lot. Where I felt like the season 1 plot cards were very there's a couple good ones that are almost game breaking in some cases, and then there's a bunch of where the season 2 plot cards is when I took tracking back, I was like in my head I was like, there is going to be a turn where I'm going to need to use this to potentially save my butt. And sure enough, Dirge came out of nowhere and did his thing. And my joke too is that I don't know if anybody's seen the Studio C Scott Sterling. Have you seen that? It's like he's basically like this goalie, and it's like a live broadcast. And they do it up really, really well. But essentially he just basically keeps blocking. It's like penalty kicks, and he keeps blocking the goals with his face.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's like unconscious. They're like dragging him back on. They're like putting him on the chair. Like that was basically Dirge. I was basically Dirge Sterling. That's what I was calling Dirge, because he was just always there. Like he blocked the freaking Alchemist goal. Like he was just like always there. Just like I just imagine like a bloody beaked Dirge and like a puff of feathers as he was blocking the ball every time. But that's when you live and die by gore sculling, that's one of the things that can get you. And I had seen him again. I saw a Shark whiff. Ironically in my head I was thinking I saw Shark whiff 2 attacks where he needed 5+. He can surely whiff a goal where he needs 5+. It happened, and I was able to play the plot card at the correct time and have that in my mind prepared as a scenario, and it ended up paying out, and I ended up winning for it. And so it makes me like the game a lot more in season 2 for that reason.
According to Dave, 13% chance that Matt misses that goal. So yeah, it's possible. It's just not very probable. Yeah, that's that was a wild ending.
Yeah.
Cool.
But that was definitely one of the. Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I was just gonna say, can you wrap up your what are your overall thoughts of the tournament? And what was your favorite moment and least favorite moment? Might have been in the same game even.
I don't know. I think my overall thoughts were, again, season 2 plot cards are awesome and they actually add something to the game. And I feel like the decisions with them are great. I think that the players that were there were like, I don't know. Like, I think that even that con just like, it has a really good atmosphere. And so it was really fun to play. And even when we had really intense games, because I'm going to be honest, like when I was watching Matt play Lewis before and the game was really close and like they were on edge, like there was a little bit of like the competitive like beast coming out where it's like, well, technically that's not an inch, but I'm trying to be nice about the fact that you actually bumped your ball and that kind of stuff. But everybody I played was super awesome. And when I played Matt, again, like the like not having a measure, just giving him the die for that last goal kick, like that kind of stuff. It's like we were being very like generous to one another. And so it made the game feel really good. Like all the games were fun. Whether I was potentially losing or winning or whatever was happening. People had a good attitude in the games overall. It was just a good atmosphere. So that's one of the parts I liked most about the tournament. And then I would say my least favorite part was I think that last turn flub of mine with the activating Obelisk first and like missing that and just like being supremely confident. I was like in my head, I'm like, there's no way I don't knock him down on the charge or something. I don't know what I was thinking. Like that was one of the moments where I was like, you are dumb, Callan. Like, what are you big dumb? Because like, here's the other thing too. Is like the rest of the game, I'm like playing for like every advantage. Like even when I describe Obelisk doing Obelisk things, but when I went with Obelisk, to win the Alchemist game, I generated like 5 or 6 momentum off Flask before I went and shot a goal because I knew I could still miss it. If Shark's gonna miss 5 dice, like Obelisk can miss 3. That's no problem. And I'm just like I'm gonna generate much momentum, so should this fail, I have a fallback. And I wasn't using that brain process when I was going to try to win that finals game. And so I say that was probably my most hated moment. But all my favorite, I think the Dirge saving the day with the tracking back was my favorite part for sure. Yeah, so like you said, same game. It was same game, same turn.
Wow.
The amount of dread that was coming, that was starting to like cloud over me. It's like it's that feeling like like the feeling when you lose, like like anybody that's playing anything competitive, like you have that feeling when you lose, but in that moment where he rolled that dice, I was prepared to lose, and I had that feeling start, and then I realized he missed, and it sucked back out, and then it became like you won, Callan. I'm like, oh, like yeah, that was those are weird feelings when you're in the heat of the moment. But yeah, I was prepared. I was definitely prepared to lose that last turn, but Dirge saved me, so good job, Dirge. And maybe, me breaking Shark's legs twice and then him have to come on the third time, maybe that kind of, sent his kickoff course,
Okay, so another thing I feel like I have to ask, because it comes up, it comes up with tournament wins. How do you feel about if you were to re-enter that tournament and you couldn't bring Morticians, what team would you bring in instead?
That's a good question. Huh. I might at this point I would say I would probably either play Filet-led Butchers.
Okay.
Because I like their mobility and their high defense stats, and they'll be able to brawl and potentially score similarly to Morticians. Also, they have access to a lot of good models. I think the Filet-led Butchers is actually really scary and good. So I think that would be one of the teams I would gravitate towards. And then, other than that,
I do think that's going to be one of the more competitive teams in season 2. Is the Filet-led Butchers team.
I think it's really good. And I think for the teams I was seeing, if you think about it, Filet, condition damage, bleed. If it's 50% Masons, Brewers, that I was guessing that she plays really well into that because she's high defense and then she casts bleed, and tough high doesn't work against that, and you have a lot of low defense models, and Mason specifically want to bunch up, and if like you're just doing the rain of blood or whatever the proc is that puts blood on all enemy models within 3 inches, like you're just dancing at that point because it doesn't fall off if you're within her aura, and that becomes a big problem. So yeah, I think that would have been a good team to take into that, and probably would have been another team I'd take. Other than that, I think that Fish are always pretty competitive, if not living on the goal threat. But I personally don't like to live on the goal threat, especially in season 2 now with like tracking back at more goalkeepers and stuff. I think it's harder, and the new rules for how you draw a line to the goal, and you're gonna lose dice now. They're still really good because they're kicking on a lot of high dice, but again, it's easy to miss goals. Where I feel like you can kind of leverage a lot of stuff in kind of teams that can brawl and do both and potentially score as well.
Sure. What about now? You're going to try to make it out to the next one, right? The Pip Cup which is at the end of this month.
Is that the one? SGT? Is it the LA one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to make it out to that one.
So if you do make it out to that one, do you think you're going to be taking that same Morticians team, or do you think you'll switch it up?
I haven't decided yet. I think for me it depends on kind of like personally what I'm playing for now, because I think that my decisions now are pretty clear. It's either I'm playing for the fun of competitive spirit and training up like my experience with other teams, which means I'd probably switch out of Morticians, or either way I think I'm playing to qualify for the qualifying tournament so that I can win and then go to the Guild Ball finals or whatever, if I think I could get good enough fast enough. So I think it depends on that, and I think some of that depends on. I feel like if you play one faction and get a lot of competitive experience with them, you'll probably be better than if you play lots of them. Is just unless you like if I just kept switching factions per tournament, like you'll learn a lot about them playing in those competitive tournaments. But I think that I don't have enough experience, I think, with Morticians competitively to say that I could go compete for something like that. I know there's a lot of good players out there that I've seen, and I don't think currently I'm in a state where I would win necessarily. So I would want to play more. Probably, if I was going for that, I'd play Morticians more to get some more competitive experience. I'd probably also try to travel more. I think I have ideas that maybe I would want to play in an East Coast tournament, potentially at Armada, and play with some of those guys over there. Or Chicago has a lot of players right now, and particularly some Mortician players that I admire. So I might try to hit up those scenes if I was going to be really serious. But for this, honestly, I think that I'll probably maybe try to train up on another team because I have all the teams, and there's a lot of teams I do like. But I think I'll probably do that. The other thing that I've been toying around with, again, like we've talked a little bit about it, but I want to start making content. So kind of the decision's going to be either like I can do one or the other. I can become like really competitively like solid to the point where I can compete for like to basically go to Go Ball World Championships, or I can start creating content and kind of and go down that path, which is more the path that I tend to go towards when I do games like this, and probably fits is probably more realistic if I'm since now I'm a pundit and I'm going to be doing like demos and a bunch of stuff.
I'll have a pundit.
Yeah, so I got proof for that. Yeah, and so I'm probably going to do some more of that stuff. So I think that I'll probably go down that path and start just creating content and playing tournaments a lot for the fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so hopefully you throw some tournaments because I want to play in some tournaments.
Yeah, there you go. that's the TO curse. It's like if you run all the tournaments, you can't play in the tournaments.
Well, it's cool though. Like you said, I like watching a lot of the games myself, and especially that last tournament was wild. I mean, I believe there were 3, maybe even 4 games that went 12-11.
Yeah.
A lot of close games. And the other thing too is the guy that ended up finishing second, Lewis. You didn't actually end up playing that guy, so there's still a whole bunch of talent in that field there that you haven't squared off against, which is great too. Also want to point out too that Glenn with the Brewers won best goal, which was interesting. That was actually one of the hotly contested voting things was best goal.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean there was a lot of good play. I think overall, like you were saying, the atmosphere, that particular crowd, I think was super, super cool. There were and yeah, the games got intense. There were intense games, but at the same time, everybody kept a cool head, and and everyone wanted to play. I think what it is when you're playing and you have a good spirit of competition, you don't want to win off of some cheap mistake or misinterpretation, right? You don't want to win the cheap. You want to make sure that your opponents are at the best that they can be, and that they're given fair allowances for everything. And I think a lot of the people there felt that way. So, but yeah, it's a great atmosphere for playing. It made it a lot easier for me to make judgments, because everybody was, when we were asked questions, it wasn't so much dispute. It was, we want to know, how this actually works, how this goes down. So that was great. And yeah, we're gonna do it again in LA here in just a few weeks, actually. Unfortunately, I'm a little worried that I think we're too late in the game to get sanctioned, but that's okay, because I think because the prize support that we're going to have for this is going to be really, really unusual. I think it's going to be cool. It's not going to be your standard prize support, but it's going to be cool, kind of local stuff. So it's not going to be the kind of prize support you can get in most tournaments. Man, that is not the color. Here's the problem with the painting your bases. Your guild color is trying to remember what your guild color is.
Yeah,
What exact blue was I using? I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
break out one of the models and check here. Let me just let this dry and figure out what was I using. That's not the right blue. And the first one I did, there's no way that was the right blue. So let's see. Some more comments here. Ross tweeted Kingdom Con had over 1,000 people this year. I thought it was more than last year. I thought it was just kind of my absolute rough guess is I thought we were at 1,200 people based on what I saw, but I don't know that for sure. Yeah, for sure, Kingdom Con's a growing con, and hopefully Guild Ball is going to grow up with the con. It's going to be, I see it's going to be one of the mainstay games over there, as long as the community remains as healthy as it is, and we continue to grow into Season 2. Yeah, I think we're going to have a big showing next year. And hopefully we see that in LA and Orange County too. Right now, San Diego is definitely the hotbed. They have the highest. I'd say they have the highest active concentration of players right now. So, and we just need to bring that further north into LA, San Diego. I'm sorry, LA, Orange County, and Inland Empire is where we need to see more Guild Ball stuff. So I'd say, if you're now an LA pundit, Dave's the San Diego pundit, I'm the Orange County pundit. We need one for Inland Empire and Long Beach, and I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, luckily there's also another LA pundit that I'm meeting up with on Friday to play some games with and meet up with him, because LA could use a few pundits because LA's big. It's like it's like actually like a decent distance to go anywhere in LA. Like a lot of the other stores I looked at, I'm like, it's still like a 40-minute drive for me, even though like I'm technically in LA, which is about how long it takes me from my new place to get to like Comic Quest. It's like, so it's like all right. Yeah.
Are you in? So you're in You're in the south side of LA.
Yeah, I'm moving to Torrance in August, which
cool.
would put me closer down, or kind of more between my stomping grounds here in LA and you guys, or the people at Comic Quest, because I was scoping that out. I was like, one of the advantages to moving south is I'll be closer to some of those events, at least. But yeah. Yeah,
and Torrance has a couple of game shops out there too. They're not dedicated game shops, but they have what's the name of that place? Geek Lab or something in Torrance that they do some miniature gaming there. But yeah, that's cool. So yeah, if you're closer, that's cool. Well, I'm trying to get a little bit more regular action down here in Orange County. I'm almost kind of spoiled though, because it's like if I'm not getting good games or enough games here in Orange County, I just drive an hour south, and I know I can run into people down there, like either Paradise or at ease, and like I can just put a message in the Facebook group, hey, I'll be down there at this time, and Guild Ball will just happen. So I can't really complain about that. So, I guess while we got you here, and you talked a little bit about the plot cards.
Yeah.
What else do you see let me ask you this just from the Mortician perspective. What do you see for your team in Season 2? And do you think you'll be moving towards, how often do you think you'll be playing Scalpel?
I think my Scalpel play will ramp up. I think if I was going to play Morticians again in a tournament, I would play a Scalpel-led team. I think that Obulus is really great, but the thing that Scalpel can bring is your team can survive without a third or more of your influence being put on Obulus every turn. or on your captain, which is a really cool prospect because that brings in other players like Graves, and maybe they're not the most influence efficient, but you can kind of then basically say like, hey, okay, Scalpel can kind of be that. She actually has like good just base kick stats, which means you can also pass the ball, which is good. Obulus again, like a lot of times when I was passing the ball with like Obulus, like against Brewers, I was like passing to mist or whatever, and I was bonus timing, or like whenever Obulus had to pass, I was bonus timing. Like even when I stole the ball from Siren and passed it to like Rage or whoever, I was bonus timing. Like I was like spending momentum just to pass the ball around, which is like not positive generation. And I've had to, and the thing that I've learned is because I used to not do that, and then what happened was, especially when you're playing keep away and you're near your goal line, you miss the kick and the ball scatters behind your goal line, and now your next activation has to pull that ball back across the goal line, otherwise you don't generate momentum, and it's like the worst flub you can possibly do in this game. Because it literally just wrecks all your plans. So I've learned that just don't miss kicks. And luckily I didn't miss any of my goals that day. So during the tournament, so I felt good about that. But yeah, so I just try to be as safe as possible and put the odds in my favor whenever I can. But yeah, for Morticians, I'd probably go Silence. I think that Vile Swarm is potentially really, really good. But Vile Swarm reminds me of Ratchet and what's his face? Mainspring. Yeah, it reminds me of that with him and Veteran Graves, because after he dies the first time, you're basically like, all right, like he's going back, and then he has the potential to explode and poison everybody and deal 3 damage, and I think that's actually pretty cool. How I use Dirge though, I don't know. It's kind of worked out. If I played Cosset more, I would probably be more apt to play Dirge. I'm gonna play Silence most of the time, so again, another reason to bring Dirge, because I think Silence as a control piece is one of the best first activations. But as far as Season 2 goes, I think Veteran Graves is definitely playable. He kept his 2-inch reach, which is great, because at first when I saw the pictures of him and he had like whatever weapons those are, kind of knife things, I was like, does he have 2-inch reach? Because if he lost 2-inch reach, I don't know if this version's playable. And now it's kind of weird because you're actually spending guild ball results to bleed people versus just having bleed and having kind of the scything blow. So I actually don't know which one's better, besides the fact that I think because he basically has like a knockdown guild ball and he has like a damage guild ball. So Gravedigger theoretically is cool because you get more victory points, and on a clock, it's good because if your opponent times out, then you can kill someone, get the 1 point from Gravedigger, and it might matter. But otherwise, you have to kill at least 2 people with it. Otherwise, it's kind of like it's actually a worthless ability. And more than often than not, putting bleed on someone's probably going to be good enough. And if you're controlling takeouts, usually it's hard to have games where the takeouts are just going back and forth forever. Usually you have some kind of like, you're either going first and you're initiating a lot of the damage in the takeouts, and if you're doing it right, you're doing them at the beginning of turns, so they're losing activations. So usually it's not like a back and forth kind of thing. So at that point, it's kind of like a win more ability versus like a necessarily like, I mean, it's a sexy ability, but again, you have to do it twice for it to mean anything, and I'm not 100% sold on it. I would probably just maybe take the bleed condition or something more, and then he's really kind of there because you have you can bring back Vile Swarm if you're playing Vile Swarm. It's how I kind of look at it.
What Season 2 team do you think you're going to be most afraid to face off against? Like, who do you think is going to be the big threat for you?
Maybe Smoke-led Alchemists. If I'm playing Morticians and it's under the rules, I think they're championship rules where you get to basically have both captains, that kind of thing. I think Alchemist maybe with Smoke, because I think that Smoke's range and mobility is like something and it's another like really hard to pin down character and has lots of condition, like AoE kind of game that's, I don't know, it's really hard to pin Smoke down. And when you do, you can kill her, but I think that provides a lot of problems, maybe even more than Fish do, because Fish Fish's takedown attrition team, I'm still not worried about, and their scoring team is what it is. But it's they're I feel like they're more like in front of me, and I can deal with them. Where Smoke kind of does hopping shenanigans with smoke clouds, and it gets really rough really quickly.
Okay, cool.
But I think that's probably the team to look out for. If there's any Alchemist players out there, and you haven't started playing a lot of Smoke, start playing a lot of Smoke. I think Smoke is really good.
I think that this... Oh, go ahead.
No, that's it. That's all I have to say.
Oh. I picked up a Smoke with the intention of fielding a Smoke-led Alchemist team, but I sold my Alchemist, so I'm going to have to refill that team if I feel like playing it.
The thing I got to still figure out in season 2, or at least in general with Guild Ball, is how to play a fully engineer team successfully, because so far I've played the factions. I own all the factions besides Hunters and Alchemists currently, because I still haven't got my starter yet for Alchemists. But they're literally the hardest like faction only team to play. Like if you bring in outside help, if you bring in like Rage and Gutter and some other people, it's like, oh, okay, like yeah, I can like form a strat. Like now I can form a strategy, but just like solely in faction, they're so like it's like the biggest handicap. Like that's actually how I handicap myself now. If people are like, let's play a 6v6 game, and they're like a brand new player, I'm literally just like, okay, playing. let's do like I'll just play engineers. And I played a game last night against my friend, one of my friends who's basically only played one other game of 6v6, and it was like a nail biter. Like I had to score off like a snapshot or something like to win. It was like 10-12. And I'm like, I just came off a tournament win, and here I am like dinking around, and I can't like. I'm like having to like scrape out like everything to win this game. But yeah, so I feel like that's like if I could do one thing that would be like a fun achievement for me, maybe it would be like take engineers to a tournament and win. That'd be maybe that's what
they still haven't won with Ratchet. I'm sorry, with Ballista yet, right? They still don't. As far as I know, they haven't won a sanctioned event with Ballista.
I don't know. Maybe that's what I'll bring to the LA tournament. I'll bring engineers, and I'll try to win. That'll be my strat.
Kevin says, "Welcome to my world, Callan." I may have given up on a pure Engie team. Yeah.
I think that with Union, they're competitive. I think without Union, they're just like they don't do enough. Like it's they're like it's like Fish, but not. It's like Fish, but with brewer speed and like ball control. It's like it's I don't know. Like they don't like the two things you would want. Like if you the ways you win is like by scoring or killing people, and they just control the ball, which is neither scoring or killing people. They can score, but it's like you do. I don't know. It's they don't kill people very fast. They if you get to them, they have a lot of weak models once they're engaged. But they have a lot of cool models. I think that Hoist is a really cool model. I like Colossus a lot as well. I think some of their new season 2 stuff gives them life. I think Mother's really good. I think that's actually the thing. Actually, that's the thing that I probably am overlooking currently is like when those other models hit Mother and Veteran Velocity, like that Veteran Velocity is interesting, but I think that Mother 2 is also a very interesting mascot because you have actually a pretty good goal threat with a mascot, and I think Mother's actually interesting for them, which is the giant clockwork spider.
Yeah, I'm going to be spending a lot of season 2 trying to figure out this guy.
Mr. MVP, Michael Jordan. LeBron James.
I got some ideas.
I think if there's ever been so season 2 rulebook, if you guys haven't read the fluff, just read the fluff. It's so good. It's like one of the things that I'm actually finishing up season 1 because I hadn't read all the everything. I'd read a bunch of the stories, but not everything. And like the lore of this game is actually really cool, and it's one of the things that really connects me to the characters because the stories actually match the personalities and how the model plays on the board. And then you look
Yeah.
at someone like Hammer, who's literally like the opposite of Honor's, like the field general and all that stuff. And Hammer's literally just like, he is that basketball player that's like, feed me the rock. He's like
Yeah.
Kobe when everybody hates him, and he's just like shooting every, like he's gonna keep shooting. And he in the game, he does the same thing. He steals influence from his dudes. Is like, nah, bro, like
To make it better.
yeah, like calm down,
Yeah.
Hammer, or calm down, Mallet. You
Honor's
don't need that
like
influence.
Yeah, Honor's more like a Magic Johnson or Oscar Robertson, and this
Yeah.
guy is definitely like a Kobe or a LeBron.
Yeah, like he's not gonna get a lot of assists in the game. He's gonna be like, score he's one of those. He's one of the captains that you actually look at, and he's like, there's like MVP captains out there, like Midas gets thrown to that, Blackheart somewhat, Obulus, where they're like loaded up. He actually is like, that's what he's meant to be. He's literally just be like, he's like, those 12 victory points you need? Don't worry, I got this, bros. Like, I'm going to get it. I'm going to go to make it happen.
I'm good for at least.
Yeah, that's
It'd be interesting playing it too, because I'm wondering if there's a way people can figure out how to just shut him down quickly, if that just totally ruins the whole team.
I think it hurts a lot, right? Because and the at least the theory in my head is if I was playing Morticians, is control them with silence and control them with silence if you can. But otherwise, like, I actually think it's completely valid to just play Obulus and puppet master him away constantly.
Yeah.
Like, just be like, hey, you turn around. Look, you're not with all that influence you had. Can't do anything with it. Peace out.
One issue I see with him is he has 1-inch melee and he has no dodges. He only has pushes, and
Yeah.
there's no real tech to get him around an unpredictable movement or anything. At least not like he can't do it self-contained the way Honor can do it.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an issue. It's just 1-inch reach. The 3-1 with he's 3-1 with tough hide, which makes him tough to put down, but he's really easy to counterattack and push away from. So I think that's really going to be the Achilles heel for Hammer.
Yeah. He will need his team, and the fact that I think it's going to be lots of like setups by the rest of your team. Like Mallet can go with his reach and knock people down and push people around and get them kind of set up for him to go in and clobber them. And if you ever get in that state, he will kill them. And if you want to score with them, he can do that as well. Like he has a good kick, and then he just basically can steal an influence and make it an actual good striker kick.
The one saving grace I see with Hammer though is if you are like if somebody is going to shut him down, then obviously you have to go to the heroic, and then whatever influence you had left on him is still salvageable by bringing somebody else into the fold who could take advantage of it. Not optimal, but it'll mitigate some of the problems you have, because I can see people kind of locking in, they see on the other side of the board, kind of locking in and trying to figure out where he's going to go or where he wants to go, and then just kind of either bait him or just, like you said, just puppet master him away from where he wants to go, and then that's going to be a big problem for him to try to get back.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the hope.
So my idea is I kind of, because I'm also reading the fluff currently, so I kind of want to play my Season 1 Masons and Season 2 Masons as two actually separate teams. So I'm kind of playing. My idea is to play Purist and field him with Chisel and Vet Harmony, and then eventually swap the mascots out when that becomes available, so that I actually have a true Season 1 team that doesn't have Chisel or any of those models in it, and then I have a true Season 2 team. So I'm excited. I really want to play now. Yeah. That said, Anthony Raposa is talking about having tooled up an Iron Fist. Yes, and Punishing March, and it was like what I was talking about the other day. is if you have that steamroller card on hammer, you can, without wrapping, you can do something like 8 damage and a 5-inch push.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Let's see. He had tooled up Iron Fist and Punishing March. Then he has a 10-inch range. He can deal with 6 damage on the solid charge. Yeah. Not just, well, 6. Yeah, 6 normally, but if you have the plot card, you're doing 8. So, yeah. I don't know. I'm excited. I got to get him sealed up, and then I'm going to start fielding him. But, yeah. Anyway, it is now 9:30. I'm sorry, 11:30. So we're going to be calling this pretty soon here. Any final thoughts or anything before we sign off?
I would say check out SoCalGuildBall.com, the site that Dave's been working on. I'm actually going to start posting some articles to there,
Nice.
and maybe even some video content. But I think it'd be cool to get kind of the same way that other sites kind of have their own presence. Like, you know, there's like Oddball and there's UK stuff. Armada has the Kickoff podcast. I think it'd be cool if, you know, on the West Coast we kind of got our thing going as well, and kind of started to share more of our scene and kind of what's going on, because it is exploding over here. And definitely go check out. Dave has like a really good kind of overview of his Kingdom Con experience running, like, from everything, not just Guild Ball stuff, but running demos, but also the other games he ran and stuff like that. So it's worth a read. And then I actually, Dave wonders how I remember all this stuff. I actually do have a write-up with actually turn-by-turn stuff that I'm working on, that'll be posted to SoCal Guild Ball. So on top of this video that you saw, if you want to see the audio version, obviously you can come here, but I also have a text version that people can follow through and see some of my thoughts around everything from, like we talked about, from the prep stage of how I built my team and lineups to executing in the games and how they went and all that kind of stuff.
Nice. And then one other thing for you local guys, don't forget to, if you haven't already, come check out the Pip Cup at Strategicon GameX. That's going to be Saturday, May 28th. And then for you new guys, don't worry, Dave will be there. So we're running the same formula as Kingdom Con, where Friday night Dave is running open play and demos, and then Saturday I'm running a tournament. So it'll be the same kind of thing. Probably a little bit less alcohol than Kingdom Con, but that's okay. We're still going to have a good time there. But yeah, that should be a good weekend. And then obviously a couple weeks after that, you get the Guacamole Cup, which, man, I want to go to so bad.
I signed up for that. I'm heading to the Guac Cup.
Yeah, I really want. That was like my chance right there, is to get in on, because I want to play. I really want to get in on I want to play a full 4-round tournament and really kind of, you know, put the pedal to the metal and find out what I can really do.
Yeah, we still need to play.
I'll have to touch the next one. What's that?
We still need to play.
Oh yeah, no, we're totally playing at Strategicon. If you make it Strategicon, we're definitely going to get in a game. But
all right, sweet.
Yeah, I got to hop in on one of these tournaments because after Strategicon, I think I've done my share of tournaments. I think I can join somebody else's scene and hopefully have some fun at that. So anyway, I think that's going to do it for this video. Here's one last look at Hammer.
Yeah.
And then for you guys that were watching last night, here is Fillet.
Yeah.
Really fun models. Good poses, good energy in these, and yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to playing some of this stuff. We got to seal it, but yeah, we're good to go. So yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this video. I want to thank everybody for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.